move over here to the Mariner side of things, where, of course, we've got this spring training trip, CSS and Converge Media down here, myself and Liv Lyons. We got in on late night on the 21st, more so around midnight, and have been here ever since. The first game down in Peoria, we went on the road for a game, and we've been in Peoria ever since. So why don't we get to those games themselves? March 20th, which was Monday, versus the Milwaukee Brewers. The Mariners won that one 7-2. Our player of the game, infielder Jose Caballero, 1 hit, 2 runs, and 3 RBIs. March 2nd versus the LA Dodgers, a 5-1 win. That was the first game that we witnessed here in Peoria. Our player of the game, center fielder Julio Rodriguez, 2 hits, 3 RBIs. March 23rd at the Cincinnati Reds, that was road game, and yes, the score you see on your screen is real. The Mariners won that one 17-6. Our player of the game, again, center fielder Julio Rodriguez, 3 hits, 3 runs, 3 RBIs, and a walk in that game, in a massive game that looked more like a football score than anything. March 24th versus the Oakland Athletics, we returned back to Peoria Sports Complex for that one. Our Mariners won that one 15-3. Our player of the game, catcher Cal Raleigh, 2 hits, 3 runs, and 3 RBIs on the day. And then, interestingly enough, this late into spring training, again, this is the last week. We wrap up today. By the time that you're watching this, the last spring training game of the season for the Mariners has wrapped up. We go over here. The Mariners had a split squad game Saturday the 25th, which is really interesting. They typically don't do that this late into the spring, but I digress. March 25th at the San Francisco Giants over in Scottsdale, a 7-4 loss. Our player of the game, outfielder Alberto Rodriguez, 1 hit, 1 run, and 3 RBIs for one of, I believe, Liv and I talked about it today. I believe there's 4 Rodriguezes in the Mariners organization, along with Julio and Edrin Rodriguez, as well as, I believe, there's a pitcher who's Jose Rodriguez. And then the other game that Liv and I were at back at Peoria Sports Complex on the 25th versus the Arizona Diamondbacks, a 4-1 loss. Our player of the game, infielder Jose Caballero, 1 hit, 1 RBI, and 1 walk. Caballero really kind of had his name hovering around these players of the game, and in these games, he did make some notice. We'll talk about that in a little bit. March 26th at the Padres, which was today's game, a 5-5 tie. Our player of the game, right fielder Teoscar Hernandez, Teo, 1 hit and 2 RBIs. We will now go through some pictures from those games here that Liv has captured. We've got Cal Raleigh here signing the ball. I really like this one. It's nice to get some of the sort of personable shots. Maybe that might not be the best word, but more so, the players interacting with fans. This kid here, you can see the look on his face. He's obviously very excited to get that signature there from Cal, who's got his bag with him. We've got new addition Colton Wong here. You got the sunlight kind of beaming off of him there at the Peoria Sports Complex. He's got the nice Mariners Northwest green jersey on that they've worn throughout the entirety of the spring. Then we've got here, this one's kind of a cool favorite. There's a detail in this that I didn't notice until it was mentioned to me by Liv. Now, you might have seen it immediately. I got to admit, I'm not perfect. Not all the time, at least. But you can see Teoscar Hernandez here celebrating that home run. Well, he had a home run in this game. I believe this was against the Reds in that big 17-6 game. And you see the Bat Kid is holding Teoscar's hand, interestingly enough. Now, Liv and I have no idea if Teoscar knows this kid, but it's still a really sweet moment. It was really something to see. I didn't even notice it until it was pointed out to me, interestingly enough. Now, that Reds game was very funny for a multitude of reasons. Funny and unique because you can see here Ty France coming off the field. He's got these glasses on his head. Now, before the game started, Ty had made a trade with this kid. He traded with a few kids, I believe, some shoes, the kid's actual shoes, these Nikes, shoes, these glasses, and cotton candy for baseballs, just baseballs, I believe. I don't think they were signed. And he had the glasses on his head there, and he took him out to the field, and he wore him for the first inning defensively. He eventually came back after the inning was over. I guess the kid was Liv overheard the kid, am I going to get my stuff back? And Ben, who's the Mariners team photographer, said, don't worry, he's out in the field right now. He's going to come back. Just wait. and he did come back, and he gave the stuff back, but he kept the cotton candy. And then I guess Ty was like, I don't really eat cotton candy, and he gave it away to one of the Mariners staff. So that was really cool to see. That was kind of funny to hear all that transpire. And then we've got Robbie Ray here, who pitched yesterday. Yesterday in the game against the Diamondbacks. Ray with those nice cleats. I didn't even notice those cleats until later in his final outing of the spring there. Ray is slated to be the number 2 pitcher in the lineup. If you haven't seen it, it's going to be Luis Castillo starting, and Luis Castillo starting on opening day, of course, if you haven't heard that. Or, boom, if you haven't followed us on social media, we posted that when that news dropped. So Castillo, Robbie Ray, Logan Gilbert, Marco Gonzalez, and then George Kirby. Kirby is listed 5th on that rotation as to get him more rest days as he continues to get used to this build up and a workload at the major league level. So that's one of the best rotations in all of baseball, at least on paper. Obviously, we knock on wood, we've got to get through the regular season to see how it stacks up numerically and statistics wise. But that's a really solid group. And you've got guys like Ray, like Castillo, who are established. Kirby and Gilbert, younger guys who are continuing to build their game. Marco Gonzalez, who's a pretty solid, reliable option, who I believe he led the team in quality starts last season, who we've seen great flashes out of him. So that's a great starting rotation. And you've got guys like Bryce Miller knocking on the door. Not quite there yet. Won't break the camp with team. Break the team. Nope. Try again. Break the camp with the team. But still working and can get here at some point in time. And then before, no, I'll leave that for injury news. But I skipped there. I want to get to, there's another funny moment. One of the days, Liv and I were on the backlots getting some content ready that you'll see here shortly. From spring training, and Eugenio Suarez was coming off after doing some BP, and just to joke with Gino, because Gino's got this nice flow going with his hair. I said, "Hey Gino, can you give me some hair tips?" I took off my hat to reveal the nice shiny dome here, and this is the response I got. If you can see the tweet there, Liv captured it. That was a lot of fun. Gino is a great guy to have around. It was a lot of fun. It'll be a lot of fun to see this team again in action this season. So anyway, we'll get to player of the week. I kind of went from team stuff straight into it. I went with Julio Rodriguez. Julio's had some big games, and he really does look ready for the regular season. Over the course of the 4 games played over the past week, Julio had 7 hits, 4 runs, 6 RBIs, 2 walks on the 4 games, 14 total bases in those games, and 1 stolen base to account for that, to add to that as well. We'll go over spring training here. Let's go over what we've seen. With coming into the spring training late, well, not late per se, but this last inning of spring training, a lot of the roster decisions have been made. We're getting down closer and closer to the official 26-man opening day roster. Again, this is the 26th. This is recording the night before our Monday time, simply because the Mariners game is at 12:10, and it's going to be hard to get all that sorted out with the game taking place. I know the games have been going quicker than normal, but we've gotten more content to build as well. Monday, so it just wasn't viable to do Monday. But no, there have been some interesting players that have stepped up. Jose Caballero has played pretty solidly. It's been nice to see Jared Kelenic. We've talked about that for weeks. Has been playing well. Tom Murphy's looking good. It's good to see Murphy continuing to get healthy. Trying to think. It's been fun also to see the younger guys like today. Gabriel Gonzalez made a great play. Axel Sanchez, a younger Mariner in the system, getting in some play. Tyler Locklear's got out there a little bit, a draft pick from 2022. So it's been interesting to see these younger guys as well, because obviously we know the big names. We know Julio Rodriguez is going to be up there. Eugenio Suarez, Cal Raleigh, But to see the way that these guys all build up towards the season, like when we went to go and talk to Robbie Ray after his last start against the Diamondbacks there, last start of the spring, and George Kirby and Logan Gilbert were out playing basketball on a hoop with a mini basketball of all things. So those guys are pretty tall, and then you give them mini basketball. But just to see the way that spring training works, one of the things we're having worked on is a little walk through the facility to give you an idea of that. Peoria Sports Complex, that facility that houses the Mariners and the Padres games throughout the course of the spring, is a nice little spot. And this is a nice area, this Peoria. It's obvious that they're putting an effort into making this an entertainment districts of sorts. Got a lot of food options around here. Tried In-N-Out. I got some heat for it, got some agreements on Twitter and Instagram about In-N-Out. I just think it's average. It's fine. It's not great. It's not the way that some people put it on a pedestal. It's fine. It's an average burger. I've had better burgers at different places. And I'm sorry. Leave your comments. Talk about it as you will. It's average. It's fine. Maybe if I was from California and it was a pride thing, I'd talk about it more. But I digress. No, to see Colton Wong and talk to him about the defensive tunes he's made with Perry Hill, to see Perry Hill in action and coaching up the infield guys. Those are things that we might see some of that coaching stuff from Perry Hill throughout the course of the season, pregame, before gates open and such. But it's been a great experience to see all that and just to continue to get this stuff made that we're doing right now and get this experience, because obviously with this Mariners team, when the Mariners, even when they're not, but when the Mariners are clicking and they're winning and they're having fun, the city really gravitates towards them. I always see Mariners stuff around everywhere. There's a ton of Mariners fans down here in Peoria. Even on the plane down here, there were a ton of Mariners fans at our gate and they got on our plane. And I'm sure it's going to be the same way when we leave. So it's been a lot of fun to see this, and really grateful for working with Converge on this. And just going to work to continue to get these out. We've got a bunch of stuff planned. Got a couple player features we're going to get out, but just trying to get that all together for you. So that's my ramble. We'll look at some injury-related stuff. On the 20th, there was a little scare last week. We talked about it. I was checking my phone as it happened because there were some things with JROD where people were a little bit of an overreaction. But on the 20th, Tom Murphy, we found out he had been scratched from the lineup due to left forearm tightness, and Jared Kelenic left the game due to leg tightness, and there was nothing to worry about. I can confirm that because he's been out and about doing normal stuff in the games and playing in the games and been a full participant since that day. You can see the little scroll we've got here. J.P. Crawford, the game against the Diamondbacks, was going to start that game. Late scratch. It was like, oh, why is Mason McCoy going out there and assuming his role leading off in that shortstop? Mason McCoy is another guy that I think might break camp with the team, considering the fact that Dylan Moore is injured. They want probably another bench guy on the infield. Mike Ford was a guy some people wanted because his bat's been all right, but he was sent down to the minor league camp. Sam Haggerty's played well. Sam Haggerty has played well as well. I'm really excited to see him this year being used as a Swift Army knife. But let's get back to JP. He was scratched late. He had hit a ball off of his foot in batting practice before the game. Was able to go through the full workout still, but they decided to hold him out of that game as a precaution, and he hasn't been in game since. And I don't imagine he will play today, the time that you're watching this, just out of precaution. Why would you want to risk anything else? So that's your injury update. Nothing too serious, knock on wood. Timon LaStella was dealing with an arm thing, but he's been day aging, so he hasn't been playing in the field as much necessarily. He did play today at third base, and he looked fine. Excuse me. So that's what we've got for injuries. Let's see. Oh, we do have roster moves. Yes, we have roster moves again as we get towards that 26-man opening day lineup. So this is what we've got over the course of the past week as we get closer and closer to an actual opening day. So roster moves, the only player that was optioned to an actual minor league affiliate was left-handed Gabe Spire. So left-handed pitcher Gabe Spire was optioned to AAA Tacoma. We got a bunch of players who were reassigned to the minor league camp. Now, if you don't know, the minor league camp is taking place down here in Peoria at the Mariners complex. Like, there is the major league clubhouse down here in Peoria, and then just a few doors over is the minor league clubhouse where the other guys who are going to be ideally with the other affiliates of the Mariners are going to go and head out. And they use the same fields and everything. Reassigned to minor league camp catcher Jacob Nottingham and Brian O'Keefe, infielder Jake Shiner, Mike Ford, as I mentioned. Jose Caballero was a guy that some people thought might make that opening day roster. He was reassigned to the minor league camp. Infielder Colin Moran, he had kind of stuck around as well and played all right. He's going to minor league camp. Then right-handed pitchers Riley O'Brien and Casey Sadler. Sadler, obviously someone who's building back from a season-ending injury last year after having a really solid 2021. Left-handed pitcher Tommy Malone assigned to the minor league camp after signing a minor league deal back in December and coming to camp as a non-roster invitee. Then the following players were released. I was really hoping we might see Leonis Martin make a minor league roster, head down to Tacoma. He was released by the Mariners, and then today they released outfielder Cole Calhoun. Calhoun had been around. I hadn't really noticed much from him, to be honest with you. It was kind of sad because Leonis Martin had a decent game in the game against the Dodgers, and I had wrote about that, and then he was released following that. So that was kind of unfortunate. And then kind of an interesting one, if you don't know about the Rule 5 draft, is you can kind of pick players from other teams around MLB that aren't necessarily as high priority as I would say it. But if you don't use them enough or get them a contract, they can go back to the team that you drafted them from. So right-handed pitcher Chris Clark returned to the Chicago Cubs. He was a Rule 5 draft pick. He had been in one of the games, but he hadn't really impressed too much, to be honest with you. But yes, this is all building towards more and more of an opening day roster. We might see Casey Sadler up with the big league club at some point. Depending on health and such, we might see Riley O'Brien, Jose Caballero, Brian O'Keefe. Jacob Nottingham was a guy that the Mariners claimed off of waivers. He went back to Milwaukee after coming from Milwaukee, and then he headed back to Milwaukee. He's a guy, depending on health, of course, at catcher, maybe we'll see. I don't think so. But again, these are guys that, at least with the Rainiers roster, we might see at some point. They just won't crack this opening day roster. So that is it for the Mariners team-related news. We look forward here towards the rest of spring training. There's only one game left. There's only one game left in the rest of spring training. So I say that, but it's kind of a loose thing. Where'd it go? So following today as in Monday, by the time you watch this, right now, as of Sunday night, the Mariners had a 14-win, 12-loss, 3-tie record. No division standing. I look at the standings if we've got anything standings related. Following the March 27th game versus the Padres, which is a 12:10 p.m. first pitch, and our final game that we've got in our CSS and Converge Media spring training trip. The Mariners will begin the regular season March 30th versus the Cleveland Guardians at 7:10 p.m. Pacific time. Then March 31st versus the Guardians at 7:10 p.m. April 1st versus the Guardians is a 6:40 p.m. start. And then April 2nd, to wrap things up on Sunday, is a 1:10 p.m. start. All of that opening weekend. It's a big opening weekend. There are giveaways. It's opening weekend, again, which is a big deal. Opening day has been talked about by many as being a national holiday, and it might as well be. So it's going to be really big. We're going to have interview segments coming out in the following days after this goes live with the respective players, and some video content as well. So I hope that you're excited for that, to see all that take place.